Good morning, everyone. Welcome for class. This morning I'm going to do a reading to start after our meditation. And this reading is coming from the Five Precepts of Buddhism as described by Thich Nhat Hanh. So in honor of his life, I'm going to share his teachings on those. So let's start by sitting comfortably and quietly for a few minutes together, please. Rest your hands in your lap. Or you could put the hands on the heart if that's your preference. Or one on the heart and one on the belly also. And finding your way here this morning, you've already made a commitment. And so let yourself arrive even more deeply, setting aside that which would distract you. Read from Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings here on the 5 mindfulness trainings, which are also sometimes called the 5 precepts. So he says, the 5 mindfulness trainings have their root in the 5 precepts offered by the Buddha. They have been expanded and updated so that they represent a way to bring mindfulness into every area of life. Rather than hard and fast rules, they offer us a framework to reflect on our actions, speech, and thinking, so we can create more happiness for ourselves and for the world around us. The first training is to protect life, to decrease violence in oneself, in the family, and in society. The second training is to practice social justice, generosity, not stealing, and not exploiting other living beings. The third is the practice of responsible sexual behavior in order to protect individuals, couples, families, and children. The fourth is the practice of deep listening and loving speech to restore communication and reconcile. The fifth is about mindful consumption to help us not bring toxins and poisons into our body or our mind. The 5 mindfulness trainings are based on the precepts developed during the time of the Buddha to be the foundation of practice for the entire lay practice community. I've translated these precepts for modern times because mindfulness is at the foundation of each one of them. With mindfulness, we are aware of what is going on in our bodies, our feelings, our minds, and the world. And we avoid doing harm to ourselves and others. Mindfulness protects us and our families and our society. When we are mindful, we can see that by refraining from doing one thing, we can prevent another thing from happening. We arrive at our own unique insight. It is not something imposed on us by an outside authority. Practicing the mindfulness training, therefore, helps us be more calm and concentrated and brings more insight and enlightenment. So the first precept, or the first mindfulness training, is to decrease violence. In yoga, we call that ahimsa, non-harming, non-violence. The second is in practicing social justice and generosity and not stealing. And we call that asteya. It's our third yama. Asteya, non-stealing, not taking that which doesn't belong to you. The third is the practice of responsible sexual behavior, and we call that brahmacharya. To be in right relationship with your own vitality and the vitality and the sensuality of others. The fourth precept is the practice of deep listening and loving speech. And we call that satya, to speak truthfully, but with a foundation of ahimsa, non-harm. The fifth is about mindful consumption, and we call that mitahara, Mitahara is our quote unquote right relationship to food and resources and substances. How much are we using? Even how much resource are we using that the planet is sharing, like water, clean air, soil, fuel for the car. How much resource are we using? Electricity, heat, and so on. So there's a correlation there with the 5 precepts as the 5 mindfulness trainings, and also with some of the yamas and the niyamas. So I wanted to give this teaching and this respectful bow to Thich Nhat Hanh. For those of you who didn't hear, he passed on June 22nd at must have been midnight or 0000 is how they named it. So he passed at the turning of the day. And he was 95 years old. He was one of my teachers when I was in graduate school. I invite you to bring your hands to your heart, and particularly if you knew Thich Nhat Hanh or his teachings, or you have just been introduced perhaps, you could call him into your heart if you'd like to. The foundation for life, for individuals, families, and society, as he taught, is these 5 core trainings, these 5 mindfulness trainings. This blessing, may we endeavor to be more dedicated. We aren't relying now on him as an embodied role model, but may we become role models to others. And consistently, may we live in the way that we are able to have this integrity and role model. So we'll chant Sahana Vavatu this morning, that we practice together, Saha, that we practice courageously, energetically. We also practice to reduce patience or harm, devasha. Let's begin. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Viveshavai Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Viveshavai Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Viveshavai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. So you may bow your head to your heart. seated for some mindfulness and pranayama practice. So please make yourself comfortable, shake out your legs if you need to. And then interlace the fingers. Take the arms and straighten at the elbows. Raise both arms up overhead. At first, I'm going to ask you simply to notice the natural breath, the unaltered breath. How does your body respond when you raise the arms? When your thoracic spine changes? When the upper chest and heart are changed? And you notice the unaltered breath. Sometimes that's difficult if you have a regular practice, because watching what is unaltered, you have to resist the temptation to alter it. Practice giving yourself the opportunity to see and to witness, not to impose. And then exhale, sweep the arms wide and reach back to clasp your hands at the small of your back. And interlace the fingers here, roll the shoulders back, squeeze the arms back. And while you keep the heart lifted, gently bow your head. And again, practice observing the unaltered breath, which means you're not imposing, you're not intruding, you're not cultivating or coercing, only noticing. Release your arms down and let's just notice, after two simple practices, what is different in any slight way. Even sensing the nuance of a slight change. This is a part of our mindfulness practice. I would like you to add the most subtle form of ujjayi for yourself, and you're going to be adapting that ujjayi based on the dynamics of the practice. And since we're still sitting, keep it subtle right now. Ujjayi, clasp the hands and return to the first position. This is a variation on Urdhva Hastasana. Listen for how the ujjayi sound moves through this pose in your body. To the extent possible, listen for the silence inside the sound, meaning the sound is so smooth and silky, doesn't have a raspy feeling to it. You arrive in the inhale pause and the exhale pause, and the silence that's there is not so different from the silence of the breath when it's moving. And then sweep the arms wide and clasp your hands at the small of your back. Roll the shoulders back enthusiastically. Sweep the arms back and gently bow your head. Listen again for the ujjayi. It's the moments of stillness at the top of the inhale where you feel like, oh, the breath has actually stopped. The feeling of inhaling is still there. No air is coming. There's a quality of stillness. Likewise at the bottom of the exhale. And then release both hands out over your knees and return to watching the unaltered breath. Let go of all effort except to mindfully witness. This kind of mindfulness or noticing is more subtle than the physical practice. It's considered a more potent place for us to experience transformation. We start with dense sensation that's called vitarka, and then we go to more subtle sensation that's called vichara. Some people say vikara, but vichara, vichara. And that then takes us deeper into even more subtle forms of concentration, each one more potent at bringing us back home to our inner self. Okay, let's sweep the arms wide. Raise your palms up towards the ceiling. Bring in the Ujjayi breath, and as you next inhale, raise your right arm and side bend to your left. So raise back up to center, noticing that you have to use the right low belly. And inhale, side bend to your right. Sweep the left arm over. Exhale, raise up, not by pushing off of the floor, but by using the left low belly. Inhale to the other side. Exhale, raise up, arms wide. Inhale. Exhale, so the Ujjayi sound is smooth. Even when you notice, like when you inhale to the side, gravity is helping you. When you exhale to come up, there's a little bit more effort required. Is the breath consistent through that effort? So rise up, arms wide. And then return your hands to your heart and to your lap. And again, to the unaltered breath. You're not doing anything dynamic. Then beneath the movement, beneath the sound, deeper than thought. The answer is no, not yet, or no, never. We actually have to look at how we're living our daily lives too, because if we bring a lot of dense luggage, residue with us, it's going to be harder to sense that indwelling presence. We have more to kind of work through to get there. So how we live our daily life is going to influence our practice greatly. Okay, let's now come up to standing, and I'm going to change to my other microphone because I don't prefer to actually wear this with the sensations on my head and my particulars with my brain injury. I also don't want the cord to get tangled. Okay, now we're on the Yeti. So rise up to standing and take a wide stance, please. And go ahead and have 2 blocks close by. And in the wide stance, you can make your feet the distance of one of your leg lengths. So 1 leg length for you is different than 1 leg length for me. Go ahead and come forward and place your hands out over a couple of blocks and walk your blocks and your hands forward. We do this often, so this is a very familiar position. And let's see if we can watch with the muscle tone required and all the experiences we've had with yoga so far. Can you just watch the unaltered breath for a few moments? And learn in the unaltered breath, well, how does your body respond when you change the shape from sitting to this inclined downward facing forward bend? And if you bring in the Ujjayi breath, how much effort is needed? And you keep it a relatively subtle and almost like silent, silky sound. As you do that, notice the length of the breath may increase. Hopefully the smoothness also increases. And maybe the mind feels really drawn in to the interior of the breath. Now, walk your hands back towards your feet. Root down and rise up to standing. Okay, let's turn the heels in and the toes out. Come down to the jazz dance warm-up pose. So when you take this position, press out through the inner thighs towards the knees. And as customary, lengthen the tailbone down, straighten your arms so the torso is dangling from the shoulders, and see if you can watch the unaltered breath. So that unaltered breath is going to feel different because now your torso is more upright. And also because pose by pose, you're influencing your body towards a greater sense of harmony or homeostasis. Now start to bring in the Ujjayi breath. And keep it really silky and smooth. This is a familiar pose for you, so you're not making the effort that a beginner would be making. That one more breath cycle. Give your mind permission to be so drawn in that there's a deep inner quality of patience. And then inhale, straighten both legs and just make the feet parallel. We're going to go heel toe into center. Please come to mountain pose. Momentarily close your eyes. One of the beautiful things about being with Thich Nhat Hanh and his community was how much stillness and consideration and grace there was for each thing. You never had the sense that anybody was in a hurry. So it's a beautiful thing. Okay, we're going to take a little movement into some standing poses right now. I just want to tie my hair off my face so I can hopefully see you better. So I'd like you to take a wide stance and have your blocks at the ready. We did some of these poses last weekend and we're going to be repeating them. So with the wide stance, again, the length of your leg, not mine, turn your left heel out, turn your right foot, toes pointing out. Okay, let's begin hands to the heart. And then inhale, gracefully sweep the arms wide, palms face down. Exhale, tone the lower belly right across your seatbelt muscles. And then inhale, side bend. And exhale, back up to where you started. Notice the left low belly. Ujjayi, inhale, side bend. Exhale, notice the left low belly. Once more, inhale, side bend. And exhale, rise, root into your left heel. Release the hands, change the feet. Okay, inhale, arms wide. Exhale, tone the right low belly. That's going to be your taproot this time. Inhale, side bend. Exhale, rise. So the movement is important and you're sensing what's happening in the body, but the process of the breath is more important than the process of the pose. And deeper than that, the process of the mind is more important than the process of the breath. Let's do one more. Exhale, rise. Use the right low belly. Bring the feet to parallel, lower the arms. Okay, let's stack both blocks on the right side. And what I did last week, and I'll suggest for you guys this week, is that I'm putting my first block on the medium setting, and the second block is on the tall setting. And I know that's taller than most of you would generally use, but I like what it introduces to the body, and we're going to go incrementally into a couple of variations so you get to learn from within your body. And so palms together. And inhale, sweep the arms wide. Tone the left low belly and your left foot. And inhale to triangle pose with your hand high on those blocks. Reach your left arm past your left ear. And as you breathe in, keep your mindfulness deep inside the sound of the breath. So even the movement of the inhale arrives to the pause, and the silence is not jarring. It's not an abrupt sense of silence because your breath is very subtle right now. Now deliberately make a little bit more side curve. So make the right arm stronger, left heel still grounded, and curve the left arm over almost like an elephant trunk or a willow branch. And with your next exhale, raise up to standing. Notice your left low belly, left leg, left heel. Relax both arms. Let's take the blocks to the other side. Sweep the arms wide. And exhale, tone your right low belly, right foot. So you just have a sense, like, where are you anchored right now? And then inhale. One of the things they said about Thai, which is the name for teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, called him Thai. And they said in 2018, he went home to Vietnam, having been exiled from there in the 60s. He went home in 2018. The exile had been lifted by then, by 2005. But he went home to be at his root temple. So that was a really interesting phrase, that he went home to be near to his root temple. So when you're rooting your right hip, right leg, right foot, you can think of it as not just a physical rooting in the moment, but what else are you rooted into? Let's curve the body over a little bit. So make the left arm stronger. So your additional curve is because you're opening the right side chest, the right rib cage. The legs stable, the breath smooth. And Thich Nhat Hanh, he would say, and keep the mind peaceful. With your next exhale, root from your right hip to your right heel, rise up. If you haven't read a book by Thich Nhat Hanh yet, I would recommend starting with Being Peace. That's the title of the book, Being Peace. Okay, let's put these on the other side again, and this time make them, so the first one is flat, and the second one is medium. And turn your left heel out, turn your right foot out. Join your hands. You root from your left low belly to your left heel. Inhale the arms wide. Exhale, enjoy the breath. Inhale to your right. And sweep your left arm past your left ear. I'm just moving my blocks closer to my foot. I didn't get them quite right. You could always make adjustments if you need to as well. Notice when you come down, you're going to have some areas in your physical body where you now have more dense sensation, vitarka, And you'll have areas where the sensations are more subtle. Noticing that, see how your breath helps you to greet the sensations equally. So you have a kind of evenness of attitude towards the sensations. The word for that evenness or equal attitude is upeksha, means equanimity. And to greet those sensations with equalness is also not to stimulate resistance to some sensations. Let the C shape get a little bit more spacious on the upper left chest. The left arm can get a little bit heavier. Please keep the left outer hip and left butt and left heel toned. And then exhale, find your left low belly, left leg, and rise up, root your left heel. Great. Let's go to the other side. We're making one flat and one medium. And I put mine close to my inner arch. They're right there, in fact, because it's, for me, it just feels more stable. So we're not tipping the pelvis down when they come down. We're actually rotating the pelvis like you might rotate a fishing line, right? So this stays toned here. Inhale the arms wide. Exhale, enjoy the present moment. Inhale, come down, keeping your right outer hip toned and your right heel anchored. Notice again, you're going to meet up with a variety of sensations. Maybe you even have some places that feel sublime and some that feel awkward. And our intention is to greet each thing equally with equal mindfulness. And that means also slowing down your mind to greet those things without reaction. Encourage the C shape to get a little bit more spacious on the right upper chest, and the right arm can get a little bit heavier. Keeping the mind equal and even. Exhale, rise up, use your right low belly, right leg, right heel. And then release the arms. Make your feet parallel now, and let's go heel toe until you're stepping back into mountain pose. Stand really still. So the unaltered breath, the unaltered body, just standing in the present, as I would say. Present moment, wonderful moment. Breathing in, I arrive. Breathing out, I am here. Okay, now we're going to address the hamstrings and the inner thighs. Those versions of triangle pose that we were just doing, or we could say variations, I know you might have felt more on the side body, which is intentional. You may have felt it from your hamstring and your inner thigh too, but we're going to change direction to go from the ground, moving into what we might think of as Trikanasana more formally or more architecturally. So take your two blocks and place them. And let's put the right foot forward and the left foot back, and begin with your left heel lifted and your right leg, whatever straight means for you right now, however straight your leg is able to be. And let's put the blocks under the hands so that you have the length of arm that you need, but also the pressure of your hands down to the floor that I'm going to ask for. So as you press into your hands, could be your palms, your knuckles, or your fingerprints, round your spine into cat pose. And then exhale, move your sitting bones back, slide the pubic bone back, bring the sacrum down, lumbar spine down and forward, the heart forward, and your gaze forward, like cow pose. And then inhale to cat again. Follow your breath cycle, smooth and steady. Something that you do have inner leadership with. Place where you can cultivate a mindful relationship with yourself, with your body and your breath. And the next time that you're coming into this sort of cow pose position, go ahead and pause here and pivot the left heel down behind you. Now at the moment, we are in a position where we have spinal extension. So we're not going to turn to triangle pose from here because you would be likely to compromise your front hip, your sacrum, your lumbar spine. But I do want you to glide the sitting bones back and feel into your right hamstring. Exhale, press into your left heel and bring your spine into cat pose again. Notice that you're actually shortening your hamstring and keeping the tailbone down like this. Let the left arm now dangle like the trunk of an elephant. I'm asking for that because I don't want you to push off of your left hand. So go inside the pelvis and turn the pubic bone first to the left. Then turn the skin just above the pubic bone. Then turn the left hip bone. Tone your right outer hip. Now turn the low belly below the belly button. Then turn your belly button. And then your rib cage, your sternum. Raise your right arm and come into triangle pose, Trikanasana. You may also turn your head to look up. Last week we did a lot of work on the neck in these poses. So this week we're looking at the legs. As you come into the Ujjayi breath again, give yourself the full opportunity. That's one way we could say not practicing stealing. Give yourself the full opportunity, the generousness of your entire attention here for these breaths in your body at this moment. Full attention on just this simple practice, present moment, simple moment, present moment, wonderful moment. And sweep your left arm past your left ear, all else remaining stable, and start to make that C shape again. And you may begin to feel the left side waist from your outer hip down to your heel, outer hip to your fingertips. And keeping a sense of your cat pose, spine and pelvis, bring your left fingertips back down to the block. And then turn to center with your two blocks. So the reason for the cat pose in the transition there is that we don't want to compromise your hip joint or your sacrum by being in extension during that transition. So let's turn the right heel out, left foot can turn in what you would think of as forward and walk your blocks around. And then pick up your right heel. So your feet are almost like you're cross-country skiing. You've got the back heel in line with the toes, not turned in just yet. Okay, and let's inhale to cat pose. Take the tailbone down, broaden your back body. And then exhale to cow pose for the spine. Slide your sitting bones back, the pubic bone back, the sacrum drops down, the lumbar spine comes down, heart forward, open your throat. And inhale again to cat. And notice again, you have this incredible opportunity. Don't let your mind be stolen away by distractions or by criticisms. And know that every moment you have a chance to recalibrate towards a mindful, loving presence with yourself.
Now the next time that you're going to come into cow pose, go ahead and pause there. And without jostling your hips side to side, just take the right heel and turn it in and down until you might even feel your right calf muscle stretching. There you are. Glide your sitting bones back and say good morning to your left hamstring. And then root your tailbone and round your spine. So this is cat pose. And I really like coming into Trikanasana from this cat pose. So try to make your right outer hip stable. The back of your right butt is stable. The right heel is stable. Those are your roots. And see if the left hip can feel really spacious as you lower the right arm like an elephant trunk. It just dangles from your shoulder. And then start turning the pubic bone to the right. Turn the deep low belly to your right. Rotate the low pelvic bones to the right and the skin and muscles just above the pubic bone but below the belly button. Then turn the low belly, belly button, rib cage, your heart. Raise your right arm. You have a chance to simply bask in the present moment. Of course, you may be noticing the places of subtle effort, dynamic effort, strong experiences, quiet experiences. And all of that we notice with an evenness of mind. The right arm past the right ear. Make a little C shape of the body. Notice if you can sense it from the right outer hip, the myofascial plane goes down to your outer heel and to your fingertips. Exhale, stay with your cat pose spine so your left hip and sacrum feel supported as you return your right fingertips down. Bring the blocks to the inside and turn back to center, please. This time we'll then put the blocks aside and come down to Prasarita Padottanasana. Reach back to clasp your hands at the small of your back. Inhale, rise up to standing. Notice that you use your hamstrings on the way up, not just the core muscles, but also the hamstrings. And then we're going to go heel toe in the center. Come to mountain pose. We're going to come back down to the floor. And you're going to need 2 blankets and 2 blocks. My hope is that your hips are going to be happy that you've been here today. Your hips are not going to be complaining. Let me just check something. I have to be careful here. Hey, Susan. Yes, thanks, Nancy. I know the headset is more clear than the other one, than this Yeti. I really like the Yeti for teaching, actually, because I don't have to hold on to it and it captures me pretty well, even from a distance. But I do think the headset is better for that beginning part of class. So we're going to work now with the Oh, the Yeti is better. How interesting. Okay, I got some things to work out. Okay. Yeah. All right. More research to do. Yes. Okay, so what we're going to do now is please take 2 blankets, and they can be folded just like we start class. This is the basic shelf fold because that's the shelf in this room. It used to be a different shelf fold when we had a studio, but sit up on them and sit on the, let me say, the left side of your blankets. Okay, so you're kind of treating the blanket like a typewriter bar, and you dinged it over to the right. Okay. And fold the left foot in to sirsasana like this. And then take the right leg out. Now my hope is that the length of your blanket and the length of your leg here, that you have support at the back of your right knee when you come into this position. So essentially we put this position together, it's called janu sirsasana, and the left shin is lower than it would be if we were on the flat floor. It would be up here. Okay, inhale the arms wide. And then we're going to be side bending. So as you next inhale, bring the right fingertips down and left arm overhead. It's not important that you can actually reach your toe with your hand, but you might enjoy holding your toe. Maybe your toe enjoys being held. Now let your breathing now again become your feedback screen, and also the place where you're able to really find your mind in the evenness towards all sensation. With the left leg lower because we're sitting on blankets, and with the back of the right knee supported, my hope is that you can sense the side waist, even the lower back, maybe the outer left hip as well. And for some of you, of course, it's going to be your inner thigh, your right inner thigh or your right hamstring. So let's exhale and roll towards the right leg. So switching more towards a forward bend. Relax the weight of your head. As you come down and forward, reach with your left arm toward your right foot, but with no agenda that you have to actually hold it or touch it. And then exhale, raise up to sitting, and notice that you have to use your deep abdominal muscles and also your hips and legs. Relax the left arm down. Okay, let's bring the right foot into a pose. We call it like, if you do the whole thing formally, it's called Ardha Matsyendrasana, but I'm going to ask you just to bring your right foot and place it on the floor next to your left ankle. Wrap your left hand around behind the calf, between the calf and the hamstring right there. And take a block with you for your right hand behind you on the floor. So as you're twisting your torso to the right here, and the right knee is up against the chest, let's encourage the twist to be in the entire spine, but picture it starting like at the top. So you've turned your head, and then the cervical spine, and then the thoracic spine. And there's much less, in fact, very little rotation that we do in the lumbar spine. But you could imagine that you're corkscrewing your way back down to the seat in the pelvis. And based on your personal structure and your anatomy, raise your left arm up as you inhale. And cross your left elbow to the outside of your right knee and thigh as you exhale. Let's exhale and come around to face forward. Okay, now we're going to move ourselves on the typewriter bar. So move over to the right side of your blankets. bring the right foot in and take the left leg out. And again, my hope is that you're supporting your left leg, excuse me, your left leg at the back of your knee, that you have support there. So some of you are going to have to make a longer blanket perhaps than what I have here. So this is the right leg goes down, the pelvis is up on the blanket, so your shin is supported on the floor. This is my left leg, so it's my 4-month-old hip. And then left leg here. And let's raise the arms. You exhale, root into your pelvis. And then inhale, side bend to your left. And do your best to keep the right thigh on the floor, the right shin on the floor. Mine feels like raising up because when there's an incision and there's scar tissue and then there's a myofascial contribution, it's all connected. So when my torso bends to my right, your left, I feel my left hip. You're wanting to pick up the left knee. We can bring that attitude again of evenness towards all of the sensations, all of the learnings and the discoveries. Exhale and start to fold down towards your right leg. And if you are like me and you have these asymmetries, you might be having the realization yet again, that the asymmetry is there. So in this kind of rotation, we are moving the belly across the lap here and trying to rotate even the tailbone a little bit to the right, the sternum a little bit to the left. Inhale, raise your right arm, raise your torso, using the pelvis and the center of gravity there to bring your torso back up. And then step the left leg in. Okay, and wrap your right hand around behind the right calf, between the calf and the thigh. Sit up tall and twist to your left. You can use the block to raise the floor since you're sitting up on 2 blankets. Depending on the ease that you're experiencing and your anatomy, the structure of your body, you may enjoy taking your left arm behind and then the right arm rise up with the inhale. And exhale, cross over. That change in the position makes your pose feel like a lot less tenable, or the mind starts to get bumpy or agitated or dull or distracted. And go back to holding your hand at your outer shin and calf. And come around to face forward. And let's take a seat that would feel like your meditation seat. So for me, if I start on 2 blankets, I have to scooch them back and just put the blankets under the lower half of my sacrum. So I'm not actually sitting on my blankets. You might be sitting on yours. I like to put the blankets right at the bottom of the sacrum there because that's where I need the most support. And then you can close your eyes once again. Give yourself the generosity of the opportunity to really be here fully. So the practice of non-stealing, Thai also called that the practice of generosity, like give yourself the fullness of the opportunity Don't steal it away from yourself. With these two folded blankets that you've had, we're going to take a position. It's a variation on supported bridge pose. This is why you have 2 blocks and 2 blankets. Since we haven't done this on Zoom yet, because I haven't taught it to you on Zoom, I'd like you to watch for a moment. There's a couple important considerations. One is that when you fold your blankets, the edge of the blanket that is rounded like this should be all smooth, not jagged. The other side is what we call the frayed part, because the blanket is inevitably not completely square or rectangular. So these pieces are kind of frayed. And I want you to have the firm edge of the blanket, both of them stacked. Okay, this is where you're going to have your heart. The upper back is going to be right there on those firm edges. And then the 2 blocks are going to be for your feet. So you can watch for a moment. I will sit on the blankets. If you sit on the front edge of the blankets, you're going to have the chance to go backwards in this sort of inchworm process. So first, when you lie down, watch out for hair clips. Just a second. When you first lie down, place yourself so that the base of your skull is going to be right there at the edge of the 2 blankets. This be this little release of the occipital ridge. We will stay there for a bit, but I want you to see where we're going. So then we're going to walk ourselves backwards. That's inchworm style. And we're going to go to the place where the sternum is the high point on the 2 blankets. And the shoulders, they're rolling towards the floor, but not touching the floor yet. So this is a way of doing a modified bridge pose where you have this beautiful cascade for the heart and the shoulders. This also releases tension from the upper back and the neck. And since the shoulders won't be on the floor, the neck muscles will not be touching the floor either. It should feel like you're giving a little thoracic extension right there. Okay, but we do start with, go ahead and lie down. And we start, doing my inchworm in reverse. We start with the base of the skull right there on the edge of the blankets. And it's possible that the back of your head is not actually touching the floor, depending on the height of your blankets and the shape of your head. So right there at that occipital ridge, I'm going to invite you to feel supported by the blankets. Your head is lower than your heart. And then you can hold your head so you don't pull your hair, and you scoot yourself backwards. This is the backwards inchworm. Scoot back until you feel like your shoulders are just going to fall off the backside of that blanket. If you put the arms in cactus pose, my hope is that you feel like the back of the forearms and the back of your wrists easily touch the floor. If they don't easily come down, you can put something under them, or you can make the hands a little bit wider. But do let the chest and shoulders release down towards the floor here. Close your eyes. Take your gaze inside. Just watching the rising and falling of the breath. And the rising and falling of the breath. You're watching the unaltered breath. And gravity is offering a mild stretch to the upper chest and shoulders. Releasing some of the tension from the muscles across the upper part of the shoulder blade. Gravity is also asking your thoracic spine to be a little bit more supple, right between the shoulder blades. Watching the unaltered breath, again, with an evenness of mind towards all sensations, with the generosity of your full attention. So there's no part of this opportunity that you're squandering. Your feet back on the floor and roll to one side, coming down from your blankets. Bring your knees up towards your chest. And then press down against the floor and rise up to kneeling. Let's take the blankets and get them ready for Savasana. They can go under your knees. Now I happen to have, I am the joyful owner of a weighted blanket. And I use my weighted blanket for Savasana, which is what this is here. So one thing you could consider, we're still in Vata season, you could put a sandbag into your Savasana. You put it at the top of the thighs this morning. You could take a weighted blanket. You could tuck yourself in. When you lie back, you could put on an eye pillow. Of course, you can cover with a whole blanket. You don't just have to cover the lower body like I'm doing there. The palms face up. Remembering that they're just some luminous beings who've been on the planet, not only contemporarily, but of course also historically. And we're lucky to be in the same lifetime as Thich Nhat Hanh. Even if you didn't meet him directly, you're still fortunate to have been on the planet while he was here. Let's rest with an inner sense of the graciousness of our, like the good fortune. We're on the path of yoga. We have a sense of community. We are able to find some navigation amidst the difficulties of life. And our tiny sangha is connected to larger sanghas. Invite your body to really deeply relax into this gracious opportunity. Resist the distractions that reinforce the mayhem of life and also that pull you away from this opportunity. A moment. Be as present as you're able. Be generous with yourself right now. And remain fully present. Yourself to be deeply present. Nothing pulls you away. Allow yourself the fullness of this opportunity. Stay present. Even though your body is still, there are still sensations moving. Energy is still recalibrating. And keeping the mind in an evenness towards all that is. Gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. Bend your knees. Roll to one side on your way back up to sitting. For meditation, beautiful sunbeam coming into my room. I like this a little bit to the side of it. Please find your place. Right, don't evaluate your mind or your practice. In moment to moment presence or mindfulness, we're immersed enough in the moment that we don't have the extra detour for the evaluation. Need a resting place for your mind to be. You could choose the tip of the nose where the air is moving very gently, or you could choose the unaltered breath or some other practice that helps you. There are times where it's appropriate to have the image of a teacher in your mind, a role model, such as Thich Nhat Hanh.
yourself the fullness of presence, the opportunity should not be squandered. Hands to your heart. If Thich Nhat Hanh was not one of your teachers, I'm going to encourage you for a moment to bring your teachers into your heart, whoever those people are. And to the fullest extent by not squandering what they've offered. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Close the recording.